wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yes, that's our wish for you. A Merry Christmas and a very happy 2016. The program is Tax Matters, and with me on today's episode is Christina, dressed for Christmas.
Hello viewers, hope you're enjoying the season.
A little while ago, some episodes ago, we did bring you stories regarding some big events that took place in Traditional Kingdom in November running into December 2015. Because of time constraints and because of the need to treat other matters, we couldn't treat those events in the detail that they required. And that's what we are going to do today on Tax Matters. There was, for example, the 9th General Assembly of the West African Tax Administration Forum, WATAF.
There was the 33rd members induction ceremony of the CITN, followed 2 days later by the investiture of 248 fellows at the 2015 annual dinner of the Institute.
Just as the Federal Inland Revenue Service was fully on ground at the 36th Kano International Trade Fair.
The Joint Tax Board held its 133rd meeting in Abuja, at which the agenda for revenue generation for 2016 was set.
And one of the learned ones, you know what I mean, one of the learned ones at the FRS was elevated to the bench. Many stories, many things happened, and we will endeavor to treat as many of them as time permits. The program is Tax Matters. As you enjoy your rice and chicken and your wine, please carve out time to enjoy the program.
Welcome once again. For 2 days, Thursday 26th and Friday 27th of November 2015, Nigeria hosted the 9th General Assembly of West African Tax Administration Forum in Abuja. Theme of the General Assembly was Extractive and Telecommunications Industry Taxation, Country Experiences and Best Practices. The Chief Host, Executive Chairman FRS, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, was represented at the opening ceremony by Mr. Ajayi Bamidele.
I'm fully committed to supporting WATAF to achieving its objectives. I understand that the last meeting was held in Bamako, Mali in May 2014. And since then, the forum's activities have been affected by the outbreak of Ebola disease that affected the region. We are therefore glad that we have overcome that particular challenge and we can meet again to focus on achieving our objectives. The theme of this meeting, Extractive and Telecommunications Industry Taxation, Country Experiences and Best Practice, is topical at this time. In view of the need to diversify sources of revenue for African countries, especially now, when global oil prices are falling, and most African countries are looking towards taxation to close the revenue gap.
Honorable Federal Minister of Finance was represented by the Director Technical at the Ministry, Mrs. Lara Shuaibu.
The global economic crisis has revealed the risks for African economies of depending too much on debt financing, official development assistance, and foreign direct investment. Sub-Saharan African countries still mobilize less than 17% of their GDP in tax revenues. The low tax to GDP mobilization of African countries is due to several factors, namely mispricing of goods and services by transnational corporations, generous tax incentives, and low government share of revenues from extractive and other industries. A large source of missed tax revenue for African countries come from transfer pricing. As a result of transnational corporations mispricing goods and services that are transferred among subsidiaries or affiliates or between a subsidiary and a parent company, mainly with the aim of transferring profits to low-tax jurisdictions. The OECD estimates that transfer mispricing costs developing countries over 160 billion in lost revenues every year, with sub-Saharan Africa suffering the biggest loss, with outflows from the region averaging 5.7% of GDP annually. We therefore need to strengthen our tax administrations and leverage on the laudable work by the OECD on base erosion and profit shifting as part of our strategy. This is the way to go if we have to mobilize domestic resources in our economies. The time has come for us to build capacity amongst ourselves, share experiences, exchange information on taxpayers, and collaborate on joint audits of multinational enterprises.
Goodwill messages and presentations were delivered by various stakeholders. A major highlight of the two-day event was change of leadership of WATAF from Côte d'Ivoire to Senegal.
According to the WATAF rules and procedure, the chairmanship of the forum is patterned after that of ECOWAS, meaning that when the leadership of ECOWAS changes, the WATAF leadership also changes to reflect the current reality. The decision was taken at a General Assembly meeting with the intention that it will facilitate the rapport between, if, for instance, if we have Senegal being at the helms of affairs in ECOWAS, and then we have a WATAF chairman from Senegal, it will be a lot easier for the interaction.
For information, Senegal also is the vice chair of the ETAF Council. So they're both chair of WATAF and vice chair of ETAF.
On the evening of day one, Thursday, 26 November, Executive Chairman FRS hosted delegates to a dinner.
The issue of taxation is a major issue that Africa is turning towards to ensure that we have enough revenue to meet the needs of our people. Africa is a blessed nation with many raw materials and natural resources, but still remains the poorest continent in the world. As such, what we are expected to do is to hold up the hands of government and provide the much needed revenue. One of the topics and the main topic for discussion in the telecom area is one aspect or one industry promotes business and also social development, but also is a good revenue earner for our various governments. As such, we as brothers in the West African sub-region will exchange ideas and see how we can promote this industry, same time earn revenue for our various countries. I wish you a very lovely dinner.
Gifts were presented to delegates. On day two, two papers were presented relating to the theme of the 9th General Assembly. At the end of it all, a communique was issued.
The West African Tax Administration Forum, WATAF, held its 9th meeting in Abuja, Nigeria, on November 26 to 27, 2015, and resolved as follows. 1. That in recognition of the need to fast-track and entrench the founding objectives of WATAF, the meeting agreed to form 3 WATAF committees as follows. Finance, Accounts, and General Administration Committee. 2. Exchange of Information Committee. Number 3. Research and Development, R&D and Capacity Development Committee. Approved the handing over of the chairmanship of the forum by Côte d'Ivoire to Senegal, in accordance with the provisions of the WATAF rules and regulations.
Tax Matters spoke to both the outgoing and incoming chairmen of WATAF.
Côte d'Ivoire became the chairman of WATAF on the 9th of November 2012. And our role was to lead the forum, lead WATAF to a successful completion of our objective. And we had a 3-year term, and we made a lot of progress during our tenure. Some of the actions that we took was to try to increase membership of WATAF Initially, we were only 5 members, but now we are 14 members. And during our tenure, we were able to establish a legal basis for the forum, and also to mobilize financial resources for our activities. We've been able to establish subscriptions to be paid by member states. The objective of our organization is clear, and also appear in the constitution of our organization. WATAF is an association that brings together the tax administration of all the West African countries, and as such, we need to pool our effort, we need to federate our efforts to develop or harmonize tax policies for the region. And one of the objectives of WATAF is to build capacities of tax administration, share experience between or among the organization around issues that are common to us. And these also justify the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with ECOWAS. The process is very well advanced, and we hope to finalize the process during our tenure. As I said, we need to build the capacities of our tax administration within ECOWAS. And one of the challenges that we're facing has to do with mobilization of member states. I mean, their participation in our activities. We also need to work together towards mobilizing resources that will be used to develop our activities and strengthen the dignity of our common forum before ECOWAS and in the face of the world. We are working together with ECOWAS so that within the ECOWAS Commission, a tax directorate or revenue directorate will be created. Of course, there's already a directorate for customs within ECOWAS, and they are making effort to include tax-related issues within their areas of activities. But we would be happy if a directorate can be created within ECOWAS to take care of tax-related issues.
Tax Matters also spoke to the Acting Executive Secretary of WATAF.
How often do you hold this General Assembly?
Yeah, the General Assembly meeting is the apex meeting, and we hold it twice in a year. And then the council, which is the engine room of the body, meets thrice in a year unless there's a special need for the council to meet.
What is the goal really? What was the objective of the founding fathers?
Yeah, part of the objectives of the founding father of WATAF is the desire to bring us to a round table where we can discuss about taxation in West Africa. Despite our linguistic and geographical differences, taxation cuts across, and taxation is the most sustainable means of government, source of government revenue. So the founding fathers of WATAF thought it necessary to meet periodically, one, to harmonize tax practices, two, to exchange information on multinationals and itinerant taxpayers who operate across borders. And you will agree with me that in West Africa we have a fair number of multinationals who sometimes repatriate profits across border. So if we have a forum where we can meet and discuss, it will be a lot easier to track them. And then also part of the objective is to promote collaboration in terms of cross-border audits of these multinational enterprises, so that the information you have in one country can be transferred, And then also it's also the belief and the expectation of the founding father as of the forum that we can share experiences regularly. When we meet, we share experiences, and that helps to promote and engender best practices. Another objective is the idea of speaking with one voice. The idea is to bring us together in West Africa, Lusophone, Francophone, and Anglophone, so that when we are different forums like Commonwealth Association of Tax Administration, the OECD Global Forum, and other tax bodies, so that we can speak as a block. And of course, ECOWAS is there. Our coming together is to benefit from what ECOWAS does. Currently, when you look at what ECOWAS does, the emphasis is more on customs. And by the reason of the trade agreement that ECOWAS is championing and that most countries are acceding to, you find that revenue from customs is dwindling. And the best way to go is domestic tax.
How well is what I'm doing?
For the first time in the history of the region, we are having a forum that promotes collaboration. Now you can sit back and say, okay, I have issues. There's a friend on WhatsApp that I can call.
Thank you, Christina. I noticed that some terms came up in the course of the two-day event: base erosion, transfer pricing, profit shifting.
Yes, that's the whole idea of regional cooperation, to be able to compare notes and unearth the antics of the multinationals.
This is the era of change in Nigeria. Phenomenal change that will greatly impact positively on different sectors of our national life. If any meaningful change will happen in our nation, government needs your support. Start by paying your tax. Corporations and multinationals pay your company income tax, value-added tax, national IT development tax, and education tax, among others. You know the immense benefits of paying your tax on time. You know the consequences of not doing so. Avoid the consequences, enjoy the benefits. It's a new dawn in Nigeria. The Federal Inland Revenue Service says it pays to pay your tax.
Welcome once again. We move on to the story of the 33rd members induction ceremony of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN. 1,035 new members were admitted into the hallowed ranks of registered tax practitioners at a glamorous event that took place on Thursday, the 26th of November 2015 at Alausa in Ikeja, Lagos.
The Institute recognizes the need for continuous provision of a strong manpower base for the tax system and shall contribute its fair share in this regard. You've been hearing some terms for the past 3 days. I was here and I remember they told you about base erosion, they told you about transfer pricing, the guidelines, you were told about non-residents, how they are taxed. You are also told the 4 adjectives: wholly, exclusively, necessarily, and reasonably incurred. You all know by now what is taxable and what is not taxable. So I know that you are now professionals when it comes to taxation.
And then discharges to government and to the inductees.
Let me equally reiterate our call that only tax professionals should head and administer agencies charged with revenue generation, especially at the federal and state boards of internal revenue. In accordance with our Institute's resolve to carry out its mandate with integrity and service, I find it very useful and appropriate here today to inform you that the Institute as a professional body does not condone, like any other professional body, any form of unprofessional behavior or unethical practice. Sanctions include delisting names of erring members from members' register.
At the induction ceremony, guest speaker was the Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University, Professor Mohammed Mainoma. Prizes and awards were presented to men and women who excelled in the CITM professional examinations. Tax Matters spoke to some of the brand new tax practitioners.
Now that you have been inducted, what do you intend to do to ensure that the tax system is stronger and better?
Thank you very much for the question. I'll do my best to maintain the professional and the ethics of Chartered Institute of Taxation, and I'll do my best to practice it according to the code of conduct. I'll ensure that I use the knowledge I've gotten from CITN to help the federal government and my own establishment to increase revenue generation through tax collection.
You know, we already have some tax laws, and there are still some new tax laws that have been brought in. So I'll try my best to make sure that the tax laws are followed and that justice is done, and that the people that are actually paying their tax are well compensated. And the ones that are not paying, we'll try and get them.
What do you think are even the major issues facing taxation in Nigeria?
First, there is what you call enlightenment. A lot of people do not know their right. They don't know that they are supposed to pay tax. There is need to have constant enlightenment through electronic media, printed media, through local source, so that people will get to know they have an obligation to pay a tax. That's one. Secondly, there's supposed to be a training and retraining of those who are working in the tax offices. Because some of the tax people we have now, they are operating in the old age. We need training and retraining of our staff so that they will know their obligation on how to attract people to pay tax.
What do you intend to do to ensure that the tax system in Nigeria grows stronger?
Well, as we know, there is a new development in the tax system in Nigeria. The former chairman of the Lagos Internal Revenue Services has just been made chairman of FRS, and being a tax practitioner, because I happen to work in an audit firm, and we all know the tax side of us in 2016. So we are in the process of ensuring that all our clients comply with all the tax laws, and you know, by complying with the tax laws, we create more revenue for the government, and you know, probably all these infrastructural issues we've been having will be a thing of the past by the time people start complying and paying their taxes regularly.
All right.
2 days later, on Saturday, the 28th of November, 248 members of the Institute were elevated to the status of fellows, just as some stakeholders were recognized for their contribution to the CITN and to the taxation profession. Once again, Tax Matters spoke to the new fellows of the CITN.
What can we expect from you now that taxation is supposed to come to the rescue of Nigeria?
Nigeria is facing a serious challenge. Our source of income is dwindling, that's the oil. And this is the time for us to turn into internally generated revenues. This is the time that taxation is much more needed than before. Before now, we've been relying on oil. We neglect internally generated revenue. This is the time now we have to focus on what we can generate internally. And that's where the Institute and people like us will be more needed.
I'm so happy, and I'll pray and hope to contribute my own content to the development of the society. And I work for Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, so I know so much about the challenges facing the oil and gas industry. And so, sourcing for alternative means of streams of income is inevitable for the nation, and I promise to play my own part in ensuring this.
I feel very happy because for the past 5 years I was an associate member, but now that I'm a fellow, I'm very, very grateful, and I'm very, very happy about it.
It is my pleasure actually to be conferred with the fellowship of the Institute of Chartered Taxation of Nigeria. So it's a happy moment for me and for the rest of my colleagues. It's an elevation to a very powerful status. We are all proud of it, and we continue to make our contribution to the profession, taxation profession in Nigeria by the grace of God.
As a fellow member, I will make sure all the ethics of the profession are complied with. And I will assist in educating most of the populace about tax issues and tax matters.
It's another cap that will be added to me, and I promise to use it unto the development of the gods and to the service of the nation.
This is a great day. I thank God for today. And we are the high class now, and we have been elevated to a high class. Thank God. We are the elders now. So we give advisory role. So I'm happy to be a fellow.
Christina, you know what intrigues me about this period? Just as Christians are celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ and new babies are being born, some are also departing.
Yes, yes.
On the 21st of November 2015, Professor Wensley Vida Mobolaji Fowler passed on to eternal glory at the ripe age of 92.
That's the father of the executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler.
Yes, Professor Fowler was sent forth into glory in a series of activities, very churchy activities, spanning 3 days, beginning from Wednesday the 9th to Friday the 11th of December 2015. The entire crew of Tax Matters wishes Professor Fowler eternal rest, just as we wish the family the fortitude to bear the irreparable loss. And again, from the entire crew of Tax Matters, so
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year!